Thailand.
Try to bring your mind in harmony with the body, in harmony with the breath. Gently settle it down. So the breath can come in and go out with a sense of ease. You don't squeeze it too much. You don't force it too much.
Here's some of the reason why I came all the way to Mae Hong Son over here in Thailand to meet a really good brother. His name is Phra Julien. Hello everybody. We're up here early morning.
When the mind has trouble settling down with the breath, we're going to check to see if the problem is with the mind or with the breath, or with your perceptions in the mind or the breath. The first problem, the mind. Sometimes you have lots of issues that are unresolved, and simply putting them aside and trying to focus on the breath is not enough. You have to think them through. What this means is thinking about them in a way that's not your usual way of thinking about them, because your usual way of thinking about them is what's causing the problem.
This is the closest I've ever felt like being a hobbit from Lord of the Rings in my whole life. We just walked through a bunch of rice fields and rivers. We've just left the Shire.
One of the things you learn as you start meditating is that even though you have one mind, it seems like you have many minds. Many different ideas come up in the course of just a few minutes. It's like a big committee. And sometimes the most reasonable members win out, and sometimes the less reasonable members do. They put a lot of force on you. They squeeze your nerves, as they say in Thai, until you feel compelled to follow them. So when you make up your mind to stay with the breath, you have to realize there will be parts of the mind that don't agree with that decision, and they'll wait for you to have a lapse in mindfulness or a lapse in alertness, and all of a sudden you find yourself someplace else.
Check that bad boy out. That's one of them big reclining Buddhas. Okay, the big reclining Buddha is supposed to symbolize when the Buddha was getting ready to pass over onto the other world when he died, and he was going to pass on to Nibbana.
I didn't come here to think about my tax returns or to think about old scores I'd like to settle. I'm here to develop concentration. And in some cases, that's enough to come back. Although the fact the mind wanders off, you might take it as a sign that the breath is not quite as comfortable as it could be. So ask yourself, how can I change the way I breathe? And be careful when you come back not to berate yourself too much for wandering off. In fact, you want to reward yourself for coming back by breathing in a way that feels really good. Try one really good breath. And then you ask yourself, why stop with one?
Okay.
Try 2, 3, 4. And see what ways you can make the breath interesting. Think about the patterns of tension in the body. Where do you tend to hold tension? Can you release it and continue breathing as it stays relaxed all the way through the in-breath, all the way through the out? When you can do that, you find that being with the body feels a lot more comfortable, and you're more likely to want to stay. Sometimes you want to use an alternative method of meditation. You might think of goodwill for yourself, goodwill for all beings. Especially if the thought that pulled you away was a thought of anger. Or you might want to contemplate the parts of the body. If you're being pulled away by lust, well, think, what is there in a human body? You go through all the different parts. Think of them spread out on the floor in front of you. And ask yourself, which part there is anything really worth desiring? In other words, when an unskillful thought comes up, you replace it with a more skillful one. And among the skillful ones, there's a ranking. If you think goodwill for a while and you've dealt with the issue of whoever it was that you were angry at, come back to the breath. Breath should always be a home base. It's just that sometimes you need to think yourself back to the breath a little bit. And then you can stay. That's one method. If that method doesn't work, the Buddha says, think about the drawbacks of that particular kind of thinking, whatever it was that pulled you away. You might ask yourself, if I actually acted on this thought, where would it lead me?